Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Hey, I'm gonna be for fanboy time here. I've got somebody for me when working before we moved down here to Florida, in Oregon, working at garbage truck. I had radio stations. I had a couple that I would flip back and forth throughout the day, and a couple of these stations. Dave Clemens was the morning show. Yeah, it was the Dave Clemens Experience, and it was something that really helped pass the time. It was between the music and the talk and everything. It was really entertaining, and I really missed that when we moved down here to Florida. So just I think it was a few weeks ago, I reached out to him and he agreed. And so it was like, for me, it's kind of a celebrity moment. I actually have somebody that I've been looking forward to talking to for a long time. He is on-air personality. He's a program manager and operations manager for Horizon Broadcasting Group. They're in Bend, Oregon. So without further ado, Dave Clemens, he's next.
Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name's Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is quite
then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, now just FYI for everybody, I'm getting over being sick, so I've got a cough drop and I'm gonna be a little hoarse here at times. Sound like I'm choking on something here. Bear with me here, but hey, at this time, let's welcome Dave Clemens to the show. How are you, sir?
very good. I love the intro to this thing.
Well, thank you.
And that girl in the cornfield, she's pretty hot.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of people like, oh my God, she's creepy. I'm like, yeah, it's just,
well, yeah, it was my speed. She looked a little crazy, so I'm like, that's someone I would date.
Oh my God. So it I mean, like through the intro, that's what I said. It was something I really liked, just the banter that you had on the air. I mean, it is one of those, we can get into it later too as well. But one of the things I loved is when you had the AK, like troll, you'd have somebody that would call the station or write the station that were all butthurt about some bit that you did. And they lose it. I like the way that you would kind of address it the next day. It wasn't like really make fun of them just hourly, but it was kind of like you knew very well who you were talking about. And so I love those parts.
Yeah, that was fun. There was a thing that I used to do called the 5 o'clock apology. And what I would do is I'd find something that somebody was mad about, and then I would just make sure whatever my apology was 10 times worse than what I'd done to begin with. And that was a lot of fun to try to create that buzz, if you will. But because of that, one of my goals used to be was I wanted to end up in the boss's office once a week. And not by being mean or being a bully, but by talking about things that I knew that not everybody was going to agree with, and it was every day I was in the boss's office. So yes, I succeeded. It was pretty easy a lot easier to do than I thought it was going to be. And it gets easier and easier as time goes by.
Well, it's even you're going to be there a little more, especially seeing that you're actually up the chain of command now. With being the operations manager,
I have to give myself a good talking to every day.
Yeah, you just look in the mirror and just like, Dave, knock it off. You're getting us in trouble.
Who's your boss? I am the boss. You're the boss? Yeah, I'm the boss. Oh.
So
Yes.
you started, if I'm not mistaken, you started out at KRCO, correct? Was that your first radio job?
Yeah, that was my very first gig. That's actually what brought me to Central Oregon.
And,
I actually grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area,
and so
and
what brought you here? I mean, was it a job posting, or was it just happened upon this? I mean,
my
'cause-
parents had actually moved up from the Bay Area to kind of semi-retire. And this is going to sound awful because I absolutely love the people I work with in this town and such. But coming from San Francisco, the third, fourth largest market, radio, it was a little better down there as far as what you were hearing on the air. And I was going
Oh,
to
yeah.
school for radio, and I came up to visit mom and dad. And driving through Bend, I was like, man, if I can't get a job here, I'll never be in radio. I mean, this is pretty bad. Like I said, I don't mean any disrespect, because I'm not saying I'm any
No.
better. I'm just saying, hey, I should be able to get in here, because my plan in San Francisco was I was going to go to school, get a communications degree, get a job at a radio station taking out the garbage, and then maybe move up to being the guy that uses the copy machine, just kind of doing that stuff until somebody died, and then maybe I get a shot at being on the air. So this was kind of a quicker
people that think
path.
you're being mean, it's like it's not. It's like KTVZ, Channel 21. That is a training station. I will not. I do not kid you. When I first moved to Central Oregon, we turn on the TV. I'm watching it. There's a girl standing outside a house. There was somebody was found dead inside the house, and her exact words were, "We're not sure what the cause of death is, but they have ruled out death by train." And I just lost it. I'm just like, she's standing in front of a garage with the lights on, and that was we have ruled out death by train. I'm like, honey, oh my God, this news is horrible. It's horrible. It is. Yeah, it was. That's what I learned. This is where they come out of school, school, get the first job, and
Bend
move
is
on.
a great place to either start your broadcasting career or ending it, and you'll see that a lot too. Someone will start, they go off, do cool stuff in Seattle and Portland, maybe LA, New York, whatever, and then at the end of their career, when they're being pushed out, they come back to Bend. Me, I skipped the middle part where you get famous and stuff, and just stayed mediocre the whole time.
Oh my God. Oh. I mean, there's a lot of people that have come through those ranks. I mean, like a lot of like Colin Cowherd. Everybody knows him. He started in Portland.
Right.
Yeah, up there, and that's where he actually started. And then he just started moving up the rank, for sports. And it's one of those you can't dog on them too much. I mean, they're learning the ropes, but I mean, just the only thing that they haven't done is the Mad TV skit where the lighting falls on the guy at the desk. Yeah, that's the only thing that didn't happen at KTVZ, while we were watching.
Right.
So, but it was Bob Shaw. He was a really cool guy. These were just the type of things that you got used to. And Chris still thinks that he wants to live up in the cold climate.
I would move to a cold climate any day.
I don't know, man. Why don't you just spend a week here in December or January or February?
I mean, we got the cold. We got the cold here now, but just not the snow. It's supposed to be like 30 degrees this Saturday.
Yeah, that's surprising. You're in Florida.
Yeah, it's not nice at all. It really isn't.
I remember when he first got here, he didn't have he would never wear a jacket. Now you see him in the morning, he's got on a light jacket. I'm like, dude, you've only been here like 2 years.
Well, 30
now,
degrees.
In Florida, Craig, do they do the sweater and shorts like we do in
Yes.
Bend? Okay.
Yes, I was actually.
Flip-flops and
my wife was laughing at me. It was a couple of days ago. We're going into Walmart. I've got on my camo Oregon State coat. I've got shorts on and flip-flops and a beanie cap. I'm walking into Walmart. And she's like, "Would you take that beanie cap? You look ridiculous." So I'm like, "Yeah, I probably do."
Love it.
So with your career, like you said, you started KRCO. Out of all the radio that you've done, what is your favorite genre, like music? I mean, if you actually could, if you could just say, this is the one I really enjoy. I either really enjoyed. I mean, I don't want to get in trouble with your two stations in case that's the problem. But it's just one of those. If there's a type that you could just like right now, if you could snap your fingers and go to, that's what you would do.
Well, let me start with this. The music doesn't matter at all to me. I am a radio broadcaster. And it's really true that I like most music anyway, so it doesn't bother me. If I'm on a station that I'm not crazy about the music. However, my best times were probably country music in the 90s, mid 90s, before all those guys ruined it. So,
Yeah.
classic country, if you will. I love classic rock, but I've done very little in the classic rock format. But, people always come to me and they say, I'd like to be on the radio. I love music and I love to talk. And you're like, that's not really the gig. When I'm doing the show, I get to listen a little bit, but not a lot. I'm doing stuff. I'm looking at traffic. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to be complaining about or whining about or whatever I'm doing. So, but to answer your question, probably I've got a soft spot since it was my first thing. Probably classic country.
Nice. Barbara says hello. You're amazing.
Hey, Barbara. Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like a lot of people Bend is such an interesting town because it's like it wants to be a big city, but it still has that small city feel.
Right.
Yeah, because it's just the weirdest thing. It's just because it was kind of a town that used to be, 15, 20,000 people that almost like overnight grew to 100,000 people. I mean, it just
Wow.
just blew up.
It's a weird thing, for the longest time, a big part of my shtick was making fun of the people moving from California into Oregon. And now, like I always tell my jocks that work for me, remember, 80% of your audience is from California. So you can't really make the California jokes anymore. You might be better off making jokes about Oregonians.
Oh yeah, well, that's what's the nickname? In Sisters was Cone Lickers. That was the nickname for the tour. Yeah, because everybody was coming up there licking ice cream cones, so they were just called the Cone Lickers. As you could see, you knew who the tourists were walking around licking.
That place at the end of town where they got burgers and ice cream. What's the name of that place?
Snowcap.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yep. Oh yeah, you go in there and it's one of those places where you got, especially during the summertime, it's hot as hell. It's almost 100 degrees, and there's 15 people lined out the door waiting to get in there to get a burger and play. I mean, it was worth it. The heat stroke was worth the shake of the burger.
Totally.
So overall, what is your favoriteest part of the industry in a whole? Like, if you had to pick out just one part of your job, now that you're in management, like, what would you say would be the most favoriteest part of your job?
Well, everything that I do, because I never planned to be the operations manager for 5 radio stations or any of that. Every single thing that I do, and I remind my boss of this all the time, everything I do is so I can be on the air. That's the best part. And the best part for me is phones. The phone work. When you got the listeners calling in and saying things and I get to interact with them. I really enjoy that. And especially one of my favorite things has always been when someone does get mad at me. I love talking to those people the best because they get to find out that I am a human being, and you calling me a knucklehead is really kind of not cool. And usually I get a chance to show them that they're wrong because I'm always right. What the hell?
That's
I like that part of the job.
That's right. Oh man, do you still do the pet of the week?
Yeah. Every Friday we still do the pet of the week.
If I'm not mistaken, this would have been right about. I would have to say somewhere in the late, like probably 2015, 2016 or something like that. Didn't you have a cat that just went nuts in the studio?
Yeah, I don't.
There was one that just went berserk, and I just all of a sudden it was like chaos in the studio.
Yeah, we've had a few things like that. I had a cat actually about that time as well that jumped on the board.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it was. It was just
off.
It just said that everything just went nuts.
That might have been what you're talking about. But
yeah. Did the cat get the job as the new jockey?
Yes, and it's beating me in the ratings to this day.
Yeah, that's the mascot. Oh my god. Yeah, it's not having been there for almost 4 years now. It's like I'm sure it's changed a lot. Because it's
so fast.
But I tried to explain to people, it's like when they come down here, because everybody, it's still not legal to smoke pot or down here. And so I told them, it's like, you don't understand. there was more dispensaries than fast food joints in Bend. It's like every other block is a dispensary. And so I don't know, has it gotten more pronounced? Is there even
Oh,
more?
huge. I mean, that's anytime, before my show, I sit down and I start writing my jokes, and every day there's a pot joke in there because half of Bend is high.
Yeah.
So it makes things really easy. It's like, hey, if I could fit a Funyuns joke in, that would be awesome.
He's not kidding, Chris. He's not
Yeah,
kidding.
it's totally true.
Yeah, it's
There's 3 shops within 1 block of the radio station.
like gas stations.
3
there.
shops.
Holy shit.
no, they are. We're not kidding. I'm not kidding with that. There's more than fast food joints because and they're all like those really some of them are the really cheesy like play on words names type thing where it's just but I think one was THC, the herb center, that's the the THC is one of them, but there's you go through there. I mean, you get used to the green cross. I mean, it's like it seems like every other building has a green cross on it.
Yeah.
Oh
funny.
wow. I mean,
yeah,
I got to make a trip up there one day.
Yeah, but it's you got brewery. So it's one of the, now. Do you still do a lot of remotes? Especially was it M Jacobs? Are you still hanging out there?
I'm there every weekend, man. Every weekend of my life, and luckily, because of COVID, for a while it was just me, and so I was there every weekend. But now I've got somebody helping me, and so Sergio does like every other one now. So it's every other week. I'm at M Jacobs for a sale that is like no other sale. Well, I mean, it's like the one last week, and it's kind of like the one that's going to happen next week. But every weekend I'm there, and it's just in the contract. So.
Like I said, I'm thinking about stuff. I was like, I don't want to get you in trouble. It's like one of those places. It's like I think that was M Jacobs one where it's like everything was always like 60% off, and it's just like, why don't you cut your prices, and then you don't have to worry about having a 60% off sale all the time.
So amazing, because I don't want to get in trouble either. But it's funny that you remember that. That is exactly it. That's what I'll be talking about this weekend. Is they've got up to 60% off throughout.
It's like every time he's like, you got a big banner right there in the back.
Square feet of furniture at M Jacobs with free delivery.
So that means they're like superly overpriced, and they just do a 60% sale.
Hey, I'm not.
No, as I said, we're not going to get him in trouble.
I'm talking about
you,
Greg.
Jacobs.
You can answer that.
Well, I can only speculate, but I'm just like, because as we're driving garbage trucks by there all the time, it's like all you see is this giant 60% off banner on the side of the building, and I mean, they're selling furniture because it was always just a nightmare taking care of their cardboard behind there because it was like this giant heap that was just like piled everywhere. So it took you forever to get the cardboard cleaned up back there, and it was like, so that they're moving furniture. I mean, so it's so your remote is working because they were definitely selling furniture.
Well, it helps too, and I don't want this to sound like a commercial or anything, but I am a partner with M Jacobs and helping them sell furniture. But they've got 6 stores throughout the state of Oregon, so they have a lot of stock that they move around, and I think that's where you get this continual sale going on. Is why that's happening, because they've constantly got new stock coming in to move out.
Well, it's one of those things too. It's like most people don't realize just the markup on furniture. It's just insane. Just the like they're buying it, especially if you have like those multiple ones. Those guys are buying these things in bulk, and they're getting such a great deal. And so it's one of those you can run these kind of sales, and it's not like you're going out of business. I mean, because as you see those, there's one guy. Oh, I can't even remember what his name was. He had a couple of places, and it's like he would try to do a furniture store, and it would always it's like it was going good, and then all of a sudden he rebranded to another name on the other side of town, and then it went under, and it was just one of those where you're just like you're not doing it right, buddy. You got to do like M Jacobs,
or maybe that's their marketing strategy.
Yeah,
they're like continually doing a going out of business sale.
And just
that's going to attract people. Yeah,
avoid your taxes because you're always
try that tomorrow on the radio show and say, hey, everybody tune in. I'm going out of business. My last show, and then
you're back the next day. You're like, I thought that was your last show.
I'll just change my name. I don't know. Go for another week.
So question. Do you think that radio is going to go only like all the way digital, like where you're just streaming from an app, or do you think the stations are ever going to go away? Because it seems like more people listen to radio like actually on the app instead of on the radio station, like Star 94.5. I listen to their app, not really the radio in the car per se. So, do you think it's gonna go to that, or that there's a market for everything in the industry as a whole?
I think we need to pay attention to that. That there are more people streaming, and I know that my show is streamed a lot. I get messages from people that lived in town that have moved away that still listen to the show every morning, from Arizona, Oklahoma, et cetera, et cetera. However, um, I think that we're going to continue doing radio the way we do indefinitely, because when those services aren't working, you're going to go to regular radio. And still, even now, supposedly 89% of the population listens to radio once a week still. And mostly, I think a lot of that is in their car. Get in your car,
Mhm.
you're going to sit there and set up your phone to stream or whatever. Some people do, and there's other options out there as well. But I think when it comes down to it, me making jokes about all the pot in Bend, or Bob Shaw, the local weather guy, or whatever, I think there's no replacement for that, as far as other technology and other stuff. And I think that it's just more convenient when you jump in the car to flip on the radio. However, my understanding is a lot of cars that are coming out now might not have FM radios anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. So it might be we don't go away, but we refashion how you
Hey,
listen
listen,
to us.
yeah.
I
No,
read that somewhere, so that's why I was asking: are you all gonna eventually refashion how you do things? Because I was reading that most cars, they're gonna do away the FM radio. They're only gonna do
Right.
like a plug-in for your phone and stream through the speakers or whatever. So that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, I like that I started by saying no and I ended with a yes. So you can
that's right.
take whatever you want out of that. I should be a politician.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you did the full swing. You both
I
answered
really
and
did.
didn't answer at
I
the same
really
time. Yeah, yeah. As Barbara said, I'm going to guess this Sunday morning programming isn't her favorite on a station. With the Casey Kasem.
Yeah, which is funny. That's like one of my favorite shows. But I'm a
Yeah.
lot older than Barbara is. So when they're playing, the top 40 from 1981, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. When I was 11, I listened to every one of these songs.
Yep. That's
You know.
no. It's for me. For me, it's one of those things like radio. Like you were saying, 85%. I listen to it all the time. When in the trucks. Like I said, I usually listen to a lot of classic rock. Is my latest thing. And one of the things like for me, and it was one of the things I want to get to you, because radio honestly is not designed for somebody like myself that listens to it for like 8-9 hours straight.
Correct.
And because it's one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy. It's like I'll listen to classic rock and it's like, you guys do understand that there's more than one Bon Jovi song, don't you? They have a catalog. You can pick several of these songs and play them. And that's where I say it's like, how do you balance that fact that that somebody like Barbara is listening, would tune in for like 15-20 minutes and they hear that song like, oh my God, I love that Bon Jovi song. And then they don't listen for the next 5 or 6 hours while they're at work. But me in the garbage truck, I'm like, for love of God, Dave, that's the fourth time you played this song.
It's difficult. It's difficult. So, however, it sounds like you understand exactly why. So how long does it take you to drive across Bend?
Like when Bend, it would be like when we do that. I mean, we're talking 15-20 minutes to get on your route.
So the average listener is a 15-minute listener. That's why we do something called quarter-hour maintenance. So within every 15 minutes, I'm trying to get you to listen to the next 15 minutes, right? That's the whole goal in radio, because you get credit for each 15 minutes. Well, because people are only listening for 15 minutes, when I'm playing classic hits, right? Rock and roll's greatest hits. What do you think of? You think the 80s station is going to play Prince, Michael Jackson, Elton John, Billy Joel. Well, if you tune in for only 15 minutes at a time, I better be playing one of those. Unfortunately, that means over a 2-hour period of time, you're going to hear all those people in that time, every one of them. You listen for 4 hours, you're going to hear them twice. You listen for 6 hours 3 times, right? And so
Yep.
it's tough because we've got people that love a format, and classic rock is a great example of that, as well as classic hits like we play on KQAK. It's pretty repetitive. I mean, it really is. I play the same 300 songs over and over. Now, here's the weird thing about it is you shorten up that list to even a smaller list, your ratings actually go up. That's
Isn't that
why,
crazy?
yeah, that's why a top 40 station, you're hearing the same 10 songs every hour and a half,
Wow.
or
That's
Yeah,
they're
crazy.
because
rotated
that's
in
what I was
there.
going to ask. That was the part, like the follow up to that is that I wanted to curious is like, so why would we'll take ACDC for example. You always hear like Highway to Hell or TNT.
Sure.
They may repeat that song. Well, why is it especially if you as a program director is it in you? I think you just answered that. Why? Because I always wonder. It's like why not? You've got 20 different songs that most people know that you could pull from. So you could go all week. Everybody's going to hear ACDC. Oh my God, I love ACDC. And you're not going to really have to repeat a song. And that's where I wondered is what's the, why that thing like playing the same ACDC song that,
Well, so they
Bee
test them.
Gees song.
They test the songs, believe it or not. So what happens is a great example is on KQAK, we play one ACDC song because the other ones don't really test as well. There's a Bon Jovi song that tests better than Thunderstruck for whatever reason. And so if you're only playing the 300 songs, you got to play the ones that are rated the very best. Now, of course, if you're an ACDC fan, you can think of 50 songs, even though they all sound the same. But you got
Yes.
50 songs you love from ACDC. And so they're like, oh, it's a classic rock station, man. How come you don't play cut 3 on their 7th album or whatever? And that's because you need to remember everybody else doesn't know that song. Or when they hear it, they actually think, boy, I wish they'd play that other song. So it's
Yeah.
a weird
Well,
thing because as people that love music, a lot of programmers love music. It's really hard to stick to that formula, but unfortunately, that formula is proven and it actually works.
yeah, because everybody likes the Wanted Dead or Alive, like I said, the Bon Jovi song. And so that's the one. It's just, and you got the people that are like, I want to listen to that Deadliest Catch song because they don't know the actual title of the song, so it's usually they throw the Deadliest Catch.
Right.
But yeah, that's yeah, because that's one of the questions I had because you've done so much on radio, the whys of why that is, and that's what I was hoping to get to because that's always just been that curious thing. It's just what's as an incentive. It's like because without knowing, it seems like you get people that are like, oh my God, they're playing the same thing. Click.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, like you said, because you're not catering to me. I'm that outlier. That's that 8-hour sticks with that 6 to 105.7 and doesn't change the channel because I've just got my head down dumping trash cans as I'm driving the garbage truck. I'm not the person that's hopping out to the grocery store. Here's the beginning of the song and decides to put it in park and listen to the song and then continue on. Yeah.
Well, haven't you ever noticed all those stations that do play music where they're trying to be your at work station? Usually it's kind of a lighter music station because it's friendly for at work. You'll notice they're always bragging about their variety. And that's exactly why, is because they have a little looser format because they know that you're going to be there for 6 to 8 hours.
That makes that's I didn't even really think about that because that would make sense because once you're in, that's going to be the one that's catering to somebody that's got it on and has it in the background the entire day.
Right.
Their corny sells, like he just said. This is the station that plays the most variety out of all other stations. Like, okay, but it's bullcrap.
Right? Okay, great. 3 Michael Bolton songs. That's awesome. Nothing against Michael Bolton, but come on. But that's what those stations are every time.
Now, do you still have an undying love for Britney Spears songs?
No, wait, is that something I'd said in the past?
No, that's one of those things. That's like the joke. It's like people like request these things. You're like, no,
yeah,
I'm not playing that. No.
That's the funny thing about requests. People, I don't do any request shows at my stations because the last thing I need is someone that has time to be calling the station, programming my station. And it's always, if it was the 80s, it's, can you play Madonna? It's like, no, I don't want to do that.
Next caller.
Yeah, next caller, please.
Yeah,
But,
it's
yeah.
no, it's so we'll talk like it's really hard to just like pull it out right off the top of your head. But what would you say is probably you know your number one or just really up there on the top, like interaction with somebody that's called in? Just that it could be anything. It's just like it really stuck with you, or just that crazy one, like like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah. I did a show called The Trading Post. It was a show on the classic country station where people would call in to buy, sell, and trade stuff.
Oh,
And
that's
so
gonna be
they'd
good.
call in, they go, yeah, I got a stack of 15 bricks left over from a project that I'd like to sell. Give me a call at 541-447-6239 or whatever. And so then people would call in and they get the bricks or whatever. And there was a lot of pretty good interactions on there. I DJ weddings on the weekend, and I was DJing this guy's wedding a few years ago, and it just made my day. He told me, I used to listen to you on my grandfather's tractor when we would go out and do tractor stuff. I don't even know what they do. I'm not a country boy, but they're out there on the tractor listening to the Trading Post. And he said this lady calls in and says she's looking for 2 wiener pigs. And I guess I said, ma'am, it's going to be really hard to find a pig with 2 wieners. And he fell off the tractor. And I was just thinking, that's awesome to know that I have that kind of effect on people. But that's probably the funnest for me is when I'm lucky enough that something comes to mind that either makes somebody laugh or think or whatever. So that probably, there's probably a few examples of stuff like that.
It was. It's and it's like it's a comment. Like I said, I really enjoyed the time listening, and I really miss getting to listen to the show like it did. Because it's being 3 hours ahead. It's when your show comes on. Like I said, it's one of those. It's either a time like I really can't have it streaming on my phone, or do something, and that's where it's one of those like I miss that part, just on the radio, just being able to listen to it, because it was that entertainment. That was
awesome. Thank you.
that was great. That's what made the days go quick. I mean, when Chris in his insanity thinking it's awesome. When there's 4 feet of snow on the ground and we're up on Aubrey Butte in a garbage truck chained up, and we're having to lug a can back and forth. It's nice to be able to come in the truck and have that smile, because it's like it just makes that misery of those days just go by, because that was what was awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Chris.
I was always curious about not your station per se, but the call-in thing. Have you ever worked the jockey thing where you're calling in for actually to win a prize or something? Is that like just sheer luck, or it's a timing that you've got to catch just right? I'd be like, caller number 3, click. Caller number 4, click. I'm like, fuck, I can't never be caller number 9. I call it's busy.
It's really weird to me. I don't know what the deal is, because we've got people. This is an awful term that I don't usually use anymore. We call them prize pigs, because they always win, and I can't figure out how. And I just don't get it, because it's the same people, and I'll have other people. So on KQAK, we're 105.7. So I usually just take the 5th caller, get it over with. And I don't know how some of these people, it's the same people over and over. Now, a big part of it is because for most contests, it's a very small percentage of people that play those. And therefore, it is the same people over and over. Now, if you got something really cool to give away, like next week, I think I'm giving away Sammy Hagar tickets. That's going to be pretty awesome. But I guarantee one of those prize pigs are going to win that thing. I don't know if they've got a system. I know there's one guy that him and his wife call. She calls from the cell phone and he calls from his home phone. So, people got little things they do like that, which is why we now have a rule that you can only win once every 30 days, which means I now have 30 prize pigs.
We've always
still the same 30.
There was one. I think it was one of those Dateline shows. I want to say it was like Dateline or 60 Minutes. They did one. This is a few years ago, back when everybody had a lot of the landlines, but it showed some of those people, and they had like 15, 16 phone lines. And so they'd go through, and as soon as somebody like yourself would get on the radio and it's like calling for this, they just start dialing. they just dial all these things. It's like, because they know one of these 16 is going to pick up. It's like caller number 9, and you see the jump reach over for that 14th phone. It's like, oh, it's me. Oh, hi, Dave. It's me again. And you're like, how?
I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but the post office was doing that for Question Impossible every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they would all call at the same time. But,
and that was well, I talked a little bit. Question Impossible. That was the one I would know the answer. There were several of them. It's like you'd say the question. I'm like, I know this, but where we worked there at Big Garbage, you couldn't have your phone with you. It's like you couldn't have your phone in the truck. And so I'm like, I know the answer, and it would be for there'd be like sometimes you'd have the cool prize, and I'm like, oh, I want to win that. I want to win that. And I'm like, I know the answer, and I'm like, oh, you're just so you sit back and then you listen to the people. Is it this? No, they get the answer wrong. I'm like, I know it. You're like yelling at the radio.
Don't feel too smart, because I got to be honest. I try to use questions that somebody could get, because I don't want to spend all day doing the damn Question Impossible.
No, I know. It's just like, I'll get it right away. And I'll be like, I know the answer to this one. And I'm like, I can't call. I'm like, oh.
Oh, that's awesome. Let me say hi to Margie. Hi, Margie.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. I've had a couple of listeners check in with us.
Yeah, so I'm is it Sharon? Is she one too?
I don't recognize Sharon.
Yeah, so yeah, Barbara, and then and that's what I was hoping
Might be
for.
My baby mama. I don't know.
Yeah, there. Honey, are you listening to this? Okay, yes. Mute the show real quick.
It's funny when old people use like new terms. I don't even know if I use that right. Right, my baby mama would be someone I had a baby with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they did. There's ones. It's like you get there. I mean, every now and then one comes across that I don't mind, like yeet. I actually find that one funny.
Now, what's yeet?
That's when you throw something. It's like you just give it a toss. You're yeeting it, and so it's
I got a commercial I had to read last week for the Harlem Globetrotters, and somewhere in there they're talking about new drip. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell is that. What's new drip? My son had to explain it to me. He's like, it's like your clothes, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Craig,
Chris knew.
I'm like Craig's encyclopedia sometimes. He's like, well, for my God, what were they talking about? We used to have two guys that would just talk a foreign language over the radio, like the peanut butter on the jelly.
Oh yeah, I got too much peanut butter, not enough jelly. And I look at Chris, I'm like, what the hell does that even mean?
Like, so I'm like, yeah. He asks me sometimes, what does that mean? It's a South.
Yeah, it's so now you said you have 5 stations that you're managing, correct?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I mean, what was that change? Honestly, just for you. I mean, was that something that you were that was planned, like you knew this was coming, or was this just one like all of a sudden you're like, hey, guess what? You're operations manager.
If I remember right, that was like 10 years ago. If I remember right, I think I applied for it.
Oh, nice.
And my boss likes to promote from within. I didn't know if I'd get it or not, but I did. I kind of thought I would, because I've always been the guy that does the extra stuff, especially in radio, whatever I could possibly do, just because I love it so much. And I like even like the boring stuff. Dubbing in commercials and that stuff. I wanted to do this for so long, ever since I was a little kid. And so still all these years later, I just absolutely love it. So, so it was cool. I was a little worried because there's a little different paperwork stuff. My goal was to just be some shock jock somewhere someday, and not do paperwork, but come in, prep your show, do your show, leave, have a bunch of chicks following you around, making tons of money, all that stuff. That part didn't pan out, so operations is cool.
So what is it like, just having to smack people with that dose of reality that apply, thinking that this is like a high paying industry, that they're going to make it rich, by getting on air, and then you have to realize it's like, okay, you do realize it's all based off of advertising. So if you can get us that million, if you can get us Microsoft to start sponsoring the Drive show.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because when I started in radio, one of the first program directors that I worked for had been in the business for a long time. It was super negative. And so I try not to I try not to be that guy, but it is hard because people will come to you and say, well, all my friends say I have a great voice for radio and I really love music and I love to talk. I'm like, well, that's like not radio. That's not the radio gig. The radio gig is a lot of work. And to be honest, for the most part, for most of us, you don't get paid a ton of money to do it. And matter of fact, when I left radio for a little bit, and I pretty much took a 50% pay cut to go back to radio. And I was just a jeweler before that. And for Fred Meyer. And
that's, for all those that are
way
listening,
more money
that's
doing
Kroger over here.
Yeah, the Kroger company bought them about 15 years ago. So it was a huge pay cut. So I always just try to convey, you can go where you want in this business because some do make money. If you move on, you will make money, but you have to love this thing. If you don't love it, it's not some gold mine. You have to love it, and then maybe you can turn it into something.
Was like Howard Stern, his show, that movie Private Parts. I think that was probably, Steve, you agree? I think that was probably one of the best descriptions of what it's like for somebody trying to move up the radio business, because you see it in that beginning. He is jumping from radio station to radio station to radio station. He is traveling all over the country, just moving everywhere to go to these places.
Best radio movie ever, if you want to know what radio is really like. Matter of fact, there's a guy named Dan O'Day, and he writes a lot of stuff, and he's written several books about radio. And he jokes in a book he has called Personality Radio that the first chapter is how to pack a U-Haul. Because that's something you're going to need to know how to do. Because I mean, that's what happened to me. I really thought that someday I would be this big radio star or whatever. And I ended up having a child, and I just decided that I kind of liked being a big fish in a small pond. So I was okay with that. And I would have had to, there's no way to become a big fish in a big pond by staying in Market 200, Bend, Oregon, or whatever we are now, 213, 206. So I made the decision not to, but if I would have decided to do that, it would have been a lot of moving around, because I would have gone, Bend to maybe Portland, maybe I get lucky, go on to Seattle, from Seattle to San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, LA, New York. And that's if I was lucky that I was just going up every time. You have setbacks, obviously. I've had a lot of setbacks in this career.
Oh yeah, that was it. Because did you ever have something like that show, Howard Stern, where it was like almost an instant we've changed formats? You show up and everybody has to put on the cowboy hat because you went from a classic rock to now it's a country station. It's just
the closest I came to having that happen, because I'm a good worker. I've been lucky and I've always got to stay where I was. But I did have that they decided that my sense of humor wasn't good for a female audience, so they took me off. They took me off of a station that was a female audience, and put me in one that was, it was still a female audience, but it was I guess not as sensitive, I guess was the idea. And, which was funny. I'm not bragging or anything, but I went to the other station and my female numbers were great.
Higher?
Yeah. So I went from, it was you might know the stations. It was Light 95.7 way back when. And I went over to the Peak 104.1, and I did pretty well over there. Well enough that I ended up getting promoted to mornings at the Peak from afternoons. And that was primarily because of the female audience. It's funny because sometimes, these consultants, they're like, he makes jokes that, women might not like or whatever. But if you can get someone to identify with you, not as the guy making dumb jokes on the radio, but as, he's the same as my brother would make that joke. You know what I mean? They don't have to agree with you, but they could go, he's just a dork. That's Dave Clemens. He's just a dork. Well, then boom, you're okay. But so that's the closest I ever got, was getting moved from that one station to the other. I did get forced out of on one station. I was doing mornings on the Peak, and they decided they want to go more music. And I just became the operations manager with that idea. So they're like, okay, so you need to talk less. And I was like, how about we move me to this other station because I
Yeah.
didn't want to talk less. And so that's how I ended up on KQAK like 10 years ago.
So okay, so that's why, because I was wondering about that too. Because because you were on 101, and then all of a sudden it was just like
Yeah.
the Dave Clemens experience was no longer there, and then I just happened to be flipping the channel. I'm like, oh, there he is. He's on 105.7. It's like I'm like, how
Yeah.
did this happen?
Yeah. So they wanted me to talk less. I'm like, well, that's not what I'm here for. And then the other station, the classic hit station had more listeners anyway. So I was like, well, there's a bigger audience. See what happens. And that was interesting too, because they were a little shocked over there, the listeners. The first day they start calling in and complaining. And something that I don't think anyone expected was I'm not afraid of confrontation. So I was putting them on the air. Talking about how crappy I was a bad person and all this. And it made for a lot of fun. But gosh, after 3 days, I was starting to feel pretty bad about myself. it was rough.
I'm not kidding, Chris. It was entertaining. It was really entertaining. That's what I said. I loved those moments. It was fun.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's no, it was one of those. That's the part I loved about with the show. You're worried about it being boring, and I'm like, no, I'm like, because there's so many people that don't understand the behind the scenes side. They just think it's just you show up, pop a mic in front of your face, and I'm going to put in my favorite songs, and I'm just going to sit back for 8 hours, and I get to listen to everything that I love, and then I'm going to clock out and go home. And you're like, no, you got to go to M. Jacobs and sell a 60% off furniture sale if you want to.
Every weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes on. I'd say my on-air stuff is probably a third of the time that I spend at the station. Probably just
so when you doing the remote in front of the dispensary, and just come down for your free sample today and your token.
Here's the deal on that. I know some radio stations are advertising marijuana, but we do not, just because our license comes to us from the federal government through the FCC.
Yep.
And federally, marijuana is an illegal substance, and so for that reason, we don't
from it.
advertise, which is a bummer because, man, I would be so rich because there are so many of them. We could advertise that stuff all day. I mean, think of the remotes, free samples lying around the block.
Then you got the Girl Scouts that are absolutely smart, and they set up shop. They set up a table within within a storefront away from the dispensary, and they just make a killing on those cookies.
It's really helped their business.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, instead of do it and ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later, you all are taking the good route on that, because if the FCC says, look, we're going to shut you down because you're advertising marijuana and it's illegal to us, then you're like, oh, well, maybe we should ask.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the FCC license, because you have to reapply for that every so often, and something like that. That's why they're like so strict on, or at least we are at our company, on like swearing. If I was to drop an F-bomb on the radio station, I would be terminated instantly. No matter how great I think I am, so that they could send a letter to the FCC saying, look, we've already dealt with this. We got rid of the guy, blah, 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 because the fine for that could break a business. These little radio stations and small town radio stations, they're just barely making it, Wow. I mean, it wouldn't take much to throw them off course. So
do they hire Gabe Clemens the next day?
Yeah,
after firing.
Right. Yes. This is my last show, everybody. Tune in.
Yeah, we had to let Dave Clemens go because he dropped an F-bomb. But we're announcing that Gabe Clemens will be here tomorrow for the Gabe Clemens experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I get that. I mean, because you got to really watch, and when you're doing those licenses. Now, do you have to, the power, the broadcasting power, is that part of that licensing, like how far you guys can broadcast?
Oh, yeah. When you get, I mean, it's and that's one of the things that is part of my job. I check the meter readings every week, what voltage and amperage and wattage we're at and all that stuff. You got to keep that in line. And there's actually contour maps for every radio station, so you can see exactly where the signal is and how strong it is and blah blah blah. The thing with FM is, as soon as FM the FM frequency hits something, it hits a wall, it's over. AM bounces all over the atmosphere, so that seems to be the one that's a little more, a lot more planning involved in general. But they plan for the FM as well. But to answer your question, yeah, there's so many watts that each station is allowed to have. Some stations are 100,000 watts, but some stations you could be at 30,000 watts broadcasting from the hill, and you're going to cover all of Central Oregon pretty easily.
I always love it when you hear them. That's at their tagline. Like this is some, like this makes their station that much better because they've got an amped up power, broadcasting thing. It's like, yeah, that's great that I can hear you clearly, but your station sucks.
So my very first station I was the program director at was in Prineville, and we'd switched to this hot new country FM format. And me being 20 years old and only knowing what I'd heard on the radio, that was one of the liners, was 100,000 watts of Central Oregon's hot new country hits or whatever. And looking back on that, I'm like, what an idiot. Who cares?
Yeah, I know.
Who cares?
Yeah. That George Strait song was good. And man, I could tell that they had those extra watts. Man, I could listen to it so much better.
Yeah, exactly.
We I don't know if this is a thing up in Central Oregon or Oregon. We had an underground radio station growing up. They would they had some kind of antenna. They were broadcasting. FCC would like stop them, and then they would go to another station. So I guess they was just putting out massive power because they would override a regular station.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was like the hottest thing growing up. You'd be like, where'd the underground go? Oh, they went to the news station. Tune in.
What was that movie? Christian Slater, Pump Up the Volume.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Doesn't he have a underground radio, a pirate radio station is what they call
it?
We had a guy doing that out of Prineville, and he got busted a few times. The problem is if they catch you, it's pretty serious.
Yeah, and that's because I think I'm trying to remember. I think there was one of those. It was years back, but I think somebody did that to one of the stations there in Bend. Somebody took over and basically went on to their signal, and they had to figure. I can't remember what it was. I mean, it wasn't like any, anything terrible. It was just like you could just definitely hear the bleed over.
Right. Yeah.
And there's one. It was one of your competitors. We're not going to say the name, those things because we're not trying
to. With that?
No, it's right there on Butler Market, and it was their old station that they had right there by where.
Right. So right there was there for a while.
Yeah, and then
who else was in there? I don't remember.
I think
because it's gone now.
Yeah, I think the Twins was there too. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that was their old building.
Was farther up. Yeah. Okay. Because there was farther down.
Is that building still considered haunted?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know the story on that. No.
There was some story because it's I'm trying to remember. I think it was Purcell. I think it's at Purcell in Butler Market where it tees, and there's that old radio station was right there. That building used to be a radio station. I think that's Purcell. That one it tees right there at Butler Market. It's right before you. It's right before you get
the gas station.
Yeah, right by there by the gas station. It's right there by the gas station across the street.
Brinson, I think that's Brinson or
Brinson. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the old radio building was an old radio station, and so that one, like I said, I remember the rumors were that it was haunted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so I was just curious. If,
I don't know. I've never been in any of the other studios in Bend. No one will hire me or talk to me.
Let you in.
Yeah, I don't think people really like me. I know it sounds paranoid, but I don't think the people at the other stations like me all that much.
Which is weird. It's like it's almost like there's a thing. Do you see this man? Do not let him in through this door.
Exactly. Yeah, they won't let me in the buildings because I always worry about that. If my boss fires me, where the heck am I going to work?
Yeah, because I know Ron Alvarez just retired, and he was that was like long time legacy player in Bend.
Yeah. And so when I first got here, he was working for KICE, which was the Radio Rangers, another country station. And in the mornings, I had to call over there and get the temperatures because then I reported all the temperatures, the official temperatures to NOAA, the weather thing. And every time I call, man, they used to mess with me. And I was just a dumb 20-year-old kid, but they'd always mess with me. Answer as like a little old lady or something. I don't know.
That's awesome.
I don't know if they know that was me because I'd left for a while and came back. So I wonder if they know that they used to mess with me big time.
Now, did you ever do radio bits like the pranks on people? Did you ever do anything like that? Because that was big back in the 80s and 90s. That was
Clemens secret. So I produced those things, but I never really did it because I felt bad for people. You don't want to make someone look bad or something. So we did a pretty good bit over a week of time, and this would have been by the time that you were here, where there was a neighbor that was parking in front of my house every day. And it used to bug me because they didn't park in front of their own house. So I pretend to send out one of my people that were working for me, and she went out to see what was going on, and we it still backfired on me. We did this whole thing where we pretend that someone snuck out the window to get in the car and drive off, and that person, my neighbor, actually heard it. My understanding is they thought something funky was going on at their house. Like someone was sneaking in and spending time with their roommate, or I don't know exactly. It was years ago, but I faked a few of those fake wedding proposals, stuff like that. But I never liked the idea of embarrassing somebody on the air. Like I embarrass myself every day because I signed up for it.
Yeah. So, well, you get those people like the ones like the cheater ones where you get the prank, like pretending that they're cheating, and then the other partner actually confesses to it,
exactly.
and then you're like, oh God.
Part of that, but those are brilliant. Don't take me wrong. I love that kind of radio. But
also, you just need to, you got a radio version of the stamp divorce. It just goes on because it's just.
I think Steve Harvey used to do the one where he's calling people, telling like different ones, like, we're gonna repo your car. The guy was like, I had to pay for that car.
Oh my God. It's one of those things. It's just when the radio station, I agree. It's one of those, I hope that never really changes, because it is just, especially somebody that's on the road a lot. It's really nice because you don't always have good cell signal or do something like, for streaming. And so it's really good to have that, like I said, somebody like yourself, just really entertaining. And that's, so hopefully you stay for a long time until you decide to retire on your own.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So. I have plans for when I get older on the radio. I'll probably I would like to go to talk radio. That'll be the next thing.
Now, because like I said, like, especially your shows, you do it in a funny way, but you really don't touch on politics too much.
I try not to, but behind the scenes, I'm very politically charged. I'm a student of the Constitution, and I love American history and all that stuff, so I'm really into it. But there's no place for it in just regular radio. Someone's just trying to get to work. They don't need to hear what I feel about stuff like that.
What you feel about the current, what the current stage of the White House. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear the funny. They want to hear the funny jokes. And that's one of the things. Like we stay away from the politics side. I mean, I like the geopolitics. I like the stuff where just the straight facts. I mean, I try to stay away from the opinion side, because it's just you can't win. There's no winning with that at all.
Right? Yeah, totally.
Especially in the last 12 years. Yes. It's just pretty much it's a landmine just waiting to go off.
Totally.
I didn't think it was that serious. He told me you'd have people at your door. I'm like, dude, let's go full-fledged politics. He's like, nah, I don't think you understand. You'll have people at your door. You'll have people trying to find out where you work. I'm like, yeah, I think I want to stay away from that.
Well, it doesn't take much either. Even now, staying away from politics and stuff. Sometimes I'll say something and it turns into a big political thing. Someone will call and be all mad at me. I take a lot of pride in the fact that I have had people call my boss from both sides of the aisle pissed off at me. I love that. I love that. That Dave Clemens, he's such a liberal jerk. And then 2 days later, conservative jerk, that guy, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, how did that happen? How did that even happen? So it's
Yeah, this Lord, yeah, it's just kind of funny when the listeners accuse you of going political.
yeah, they do all the time. They do all the time. Well, and it's funny too because I could make I made a joke one time about I don't remember what it was. I think it was about Trump's hair,
Yep.
and people just went crazy on me. I'm like, it's a hair joke. Holy smokes!
Yeah.
You know,
That,
or the other thing that happens is sometimes you got time for a real quick story?
oh yeah, you're good. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
This one really affected me is why I wasn't planning on bringing this up or whatever. But basically, I was accused of being no friend to the LGBTQ community. And then I found out it was because of a joke I made. It was back when Caitlyn Jenner had that car accident.
Yep.
And it came out that it was probably her fault. And I said, boom, there's proof that she's a woman. And if anything, that's a joke against women. And it's only funny because it's ridiculous for anyone to think that because you're a woman, you can't drive. You know what I mean? So that's what makes the joke funny to begin with. So it wasn't against transgender. It was against women.
I caught it.
So I don't know. So things like that happen to me all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I don't know.
Chris,
it's just weird. It's a weird environment because of that.
Yeah, it's it's sad. It really is. That you have to sit here and in your mind think, because I'm sure like you've done for so long, you wanted to say that joke, but in your mind you have to be like, okay, do I want to deal with the 1,700 emails that are going to come showing up in my inbox this afternoon?
I've thought about
because
doing a podcast where I just do all the jokes I rejected. Because
Yep,
I have
there you
3
go.
or 4 every day. I'm like, no, I can't do that one, even though I think it is hilarious.
yes,
We either take it out of context or maybe it is a little rough. I don't know. But yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
well, that's whole. No, go ahead, Chris.
I mean, growing up, I didn't remember everybody being so sensitive. Like you say, I mean, you've been in radio a very long time. The newer generation, it seems like they're getting more sensitive as we get older. They get younger. It's like, dude, it was a joke.
Yeah, you know what I'm afraid of, Chris, is as a broadcaster, I'm 100% against censorship of any kind. Even if you're saying things I don't agree with, you're like, McDonald's sucks. I'm like, I love McDonald's, but that's your right to say that. And I feel like that's going away. That's going away. A lot of people think, oh, you can't say that. I personally feel you should be able to say whatever the heck you want. And then I can just say, well, that guy's an idiot. You know what I mean? But not cancel them over it. It really, really, really bothers me.
I mean, because we talked, like I've talked to Chris about this. It's like, if somebody wants to go on a street corner and yell, I don't like black people, I'm like, I feel like that's their right to say that. But the person, like I said, do I encourage them to say that? No. But like what I told Chris is like, the part that's awesome is I know who not to hang out with now.
Totally. Right.
That's the idiot I don't want to hang out with. But I wouldn't have known that if we didn't allow him to actually get out there and say his stupid stuff on the street. Then you're like, hey, Tim over there, yeah, I'm not going to hang out with that guy. That guy's right. I'm not dealing with him. And but if we banned it, it's like all the time. You wouldn't know this until you're hanging out with him, and then he's going to say something, and then you're like, Craig, I can't believe you hang out with that guy. I didn't know.
Right. Well, yeah. Craig, you could take that, just one step further, and maybe you got the guy next door with the Confederate flag, and instead of I don't hang out with that guy, maybe you kind of know that guy, and you can find out, why does he have a Confederate flag? Is it because he's a racist? Or is it because he believes in state rights? Or because he's from the South and that's part of their heritage? Or is it because he's a KKK member? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's maybe now you have a chance for some dialogue. And then you can do like you said and stay away from that guy because he's an idiot. Or maybe it's just a kind of a matter of, well, a lot of people might see that as something else than what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, we toss the idea around all the time. It's like, we've got to stop censoring people. Like, I mean, the things that they put in the laws are great. Like, don't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Yeah, that's understandable. That's not freedom of speech. That's not censoring somebody's right. That's stopping something from having like a trampled on situation. But anything else that doesn't interfere with like safety, I believe you should be able to say what you want to say.
Sure.
Yeah, it's but in this whole thing, I mean, it's just yeah, you just say the wrong thing, and it's just, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this. The one I think is getting older is part of it, but this pronouns thing is absolutely a headache for me. I don't understand. It's just one of those, you're like, you didn't call me this. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I just go up
Right.
and say, hey? I go, I don't know. I just say like, I don't know what to say. I mean, because I'm not trying to offend somebody, but I'm like, I trust me. They, them, their, it.
He, she,
Yeah. I don't know what to
Those
do.
don't sound like proper English either to me. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They doesn't fit in the same place as he to me, and so it makes things a little more interesting. So, like you said, it's a little confusing. Now, I don't talk much about this, and it's really kind of funny considering the LGBTQ community doesn't support Dave Clemens. I actually have a trans daughter, and when she transitioned, she was over with a friend that was also trans, and I said, "Hey guys, come in for dinner." Oh my goodness. They freaked out on me big time. We're not guys, blah, blah. I say that to everybody. So while you guys are looking for um, acceptance and understanding, you need to do that too. And that's how I try to coach my daughter is you can't expect everybody to just jump on your bandwagon and be able to navigate through this thing. You need to help them and be accepting and understand that just like you're not perfect, they're not perfect either. And so it's going to take me a while to figure out
Yeah.
how to move forward with this, and I'm not going to stop saying guys. I say that to everybody anyway.
Well, that's
you're
our
gonna have to
generation
have
too. That's what it has nothing to do with gender.
Right.
It just it's like saying dude. It's like saying something like it's just like, hey guys, come here. It's like you're not making a reference like, hey, you look like a dude.
Right.
That
Right.
yeah,
Totally.
but I get it. And that's one of those, just like doing shows like this and doing your show. I get that minefield. It's so hard to navigate because you're just at any point, I'm like, I don't want to offend somebody, but I also don't want to feel like I'm hampering my, creativity because I'm so worried about saying something that it's going to offend somebody.
Right. I guess that's why you got to learn names. I'm really bad at remembering names, but if I could just learn the names, then I'll probably be okay. Then you don't have to say he, she, they, their.
I know it's a Saturday Night Live thing. Then they come up, what's your name, Pat? You're like, oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, you're just like, well, that didn't help me at all. It's like, what's your name, Chris? It's like, oh, is that with a K? Is that with a CH?
Right.
Which one is this? Yeah,
it's hard because you want to, I want to honor anyone that I talk to. I don't care if you think you're a Smurf. I really don't. And I'm not. And here's the thing. So if I said that on the radio right now, which I think I did once, I get a call saying, "Are you comparing transgender to people that think they're Smurfs?" Okay, one, are there people that think they're Smurfs? I was just trying to I was trying to be supportive here, and somehow you turned it into me saying that people that think they're Smurfs are the same as transgender people.
I know. Yeah, there's people that they take it way too far. It's just that one. It's like, oh, hey, you look nice today. Oh, you're saying I look ugly every other time? You're like, I can't win. I can't win. I was like, take the compliment, please, for love of God. Yeah, it's so I mean, that's awesome that as a family, like you guys have been able to be so supportive. Because there's some that just they don't get that support. And it's really hard because when you have some people, it's just when they come up and they just say that, one, for most people, they're like, oh, you're not supportive. I'm like, well, you got to remember, if you're used to always referring to them as, daughter or son, for their whole life, and then all of a sudden they come up and say, hey, I'm no longer a girl, I'm a guy. I'm no longer a guy, I'm a girl. I mean, that's going to, as parents, I can only imagine the time that it takes to process that just at that moment. You're just,
one of the really weird things about that that I didn't anticipate is memories of my daughter when she was a man. I think in Male and Andrew. I mean, that's
hmm
the memory. So I'm like, yeah, Andrew and I were out fishing because it was Andrew and I out fishing back 10 years ago. Now, if we went fishing this weekend, next week, I'd say Raina and I went fishing. And it's interesting because I'm like, I don't know if that bothers her or not. That, some of my memories, most of my memories of her right now are as him. And that's interesting. So a great example of that would be she did 2 tours in Iraq. And so when I'm talking to a veteran or something, I say, "Oh yeah, my son was in the military." And then I think to myself, "Wait, am I supposed to say my daughter was in the military?"
Yeah,
Food for
and that,
thought. You know what I
but
mean?
that is a good point, because you think about it. It's like, because when you're telling those stories, you're telling them factually as they occurred. It's not something that you're changing. And it's like, when you go, it's like, well, back when you can't say like back when she was 10, because at that time it wasn't a she, it was he. My son and I went and we did this. So I mean, but at the same time, like I said, I get it. I get that confliction. It's like, what am I supposed to do here? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm telling
'Cause I
something
want
that
to honor
occurred.
her and do whatever she wants me to do. But like
Yeah.
I told her, you need to realize that your transition, I also have to transition too. And it's not easy.
No, because yeah, and I think that's where you said a few minutes ago, where I honestly think it's also on that part. It's like, they have to realize people have to learn how to adapt themselves. Well, they're learning to adapt to the changes they've made. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden everybody's gone on that same journey. I mean, because now you've dropped this bomb, literally, just where, just like you said, memories and everything. You're like, okay, how do I process this?
Right.
And that's where I think, just as people get to this point, because like I said, I let people be happy. I said, if you're happy, awesome. I
Exactly.
go,
I'm with you on
it's
that.
just, this militancy is the part that just drives me crazy, where it's like they want to come bash you over that because you didn't say they. You're
Right.
like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I'm sorry. I go, how are you? How do you? I'm they. Use the proper, and like the pronouns thing. Like I said, I think that's going to be the death of me.
But I had somebody I went to school with that transitioned, but they still liked females. So they felt like they got more females as a woman than they did as a man. So they're not technically gay, they're just transgendered, and they like women. I'm like, I don't know what his thought process was on that one, but it worked
Right.
out for him. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, it's
So
probably easier to get chicks if you're a chick because those guys are not really that good looking, just in general.
just
That's awesome. Oh man, yeah. It's just, I don't know. I don't even be so, especially like you said, when you're on air, just because it's that minefield that you have to navigate every day, and it's just. But like I said, when you have professionals like yourself, you pull it off, because like I said, you're still on air. And that's
So far. So
yeah.
just because I couldn't find anybody else, I think. I don't know. I think I'm just lucky.
Well, it's because Jim Jacobs loves you. He like said,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
bringing a bit. Yeah,
That's the key.
yeah. We're thinking about this. No. He's staying. Dave
Yeah.
Clemens only at my store.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
it is. But no, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, thanks
I
for having me. That was a lot of fun. I'm sure I
Yeah,
overshared on a bunch of stuff, so I'll be
we
willing
always
back
do.
on this one.
That's
Oh
yeah.
crap.
Nice, Mike Mark. He just it's been a really fun show. I said a lot of people, said comment. It's like they really really like this, and this is kind of what we go for. It's like, I like to get the behind the scenes. The norm people that you see, like, I really don't have much to say. Well, you just talk for an hour and 13 minutes.
mhm.
Wow.
And so, and it's one of those. That's what I said. This is the story. Oh, before we go, I'm not gonna let you off the hook on this one. You were writing a book.
Yes. I started writing it right before COVID. So I kind of didn't get it done because, believe it or not, even though the first year of COVID, everything was kind of slow. The second year of COVID, everybody decided, I mentioned earlier, I'm doing weddings. on the weekend. And so I was super busy last year. So, I still got a lot more to write. So yeah, I'm writing a book. It'll be called The Dave Clemens Experience. It's really bad. It's not a very good book at all. This is something you're going to buy for friends you don't like, give it to them because it's not going to be awesome or anything. Well, writing a book is weird. I'll make this quick, but
No, you're good.
I've always thought that I would either be a radio person or a writer, and I get to write every day because I write my show. But it's really hard to write a book for me because I'm thinking, in your lifetime, how many books are you going to read? Let's say you read 1,000 books in your whole life. Why in the hell are you going to waste your time on Dave Clemens' book? You should be reading Mark Twain and Steinbach and like good writers, Hemingway, the Bible maybe, but not Dave Clemens' book. Why would you waste your time on that? So it's always been really hard for me. And then I thought, well, I could write down my experience as the radio guy, my radio career. People have asked me about that over the years, and maybe I could do that. And it's hard to write because it's like, I'm not even successful at it. I'm at market 206 or whatever Bend is. It's not like I did anything great. It's going to be the stupidest book of all time. So yeah, everybody should buy that for someone they don't like.
Now, that is a sales tactic.
That is.
Let me tell you.
There you go. Yeah, they're gonna. What the hell's in this thing?
Yeah. So it's like everyone our age has already read Mark Twain. Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. I mean, it's just, like I said, you do have a lot of stories to tell. I mean, you do a lot for charity. You do a lot for stuff. I mean, this is one of the things, like behind the scenes. You don't go out and tout your things, but for anybody that's listened, they know. For the one or two idiots that come on there and say you're a bad person, it's like they don't really know the Dave Clemens if you actually pay attention, because there's so many things that you do behind the scenes for groups and stuff, which is, fantastic. It's like, appreciate all those things that you do for those groups, because that's a lot. I mean, just giving yourself the time, is a great help to them.
And that's the most rewarding part of this job, to be honest, now that I'm older. When I started, it was, I want to be the star and make people laugh and this or that. And now that I'm older, it's okay, what can I help with? When the COVID thing happened and we pretty much let everybody go and it was just me, I had to decide, what are we still going to do? Obviously, I was going to do my live show, but there's a public affairs program that we do. Thank Christ. There's a nice haircut. There's a program that we do every Sunday morning on all 5 stations, a public affairs thing. And it's a lot of extra work, but it was one of the things I need to do this, because what's the point of doing this thing if I'm not trying to give back something, and I know that sounds super cheesy, and I'm not the star of the show or anything. It's these people and their organizations that are doing great things. It's not me, but I'm in a position that I can give them a voice to get the word out on the radio, and that's pretty rewarding. So I thank them for that.
That's probably going to be the hardest part for you. I said, just I'm Dave splaining right now.
Okay.
So, yes, that's probably going to be the hardest part. Just from listening to you and stuff like that, because you don't really boast about the things that you do. Where, like in this book, I would really love to see that part where you talk more about those things, like what those experiences, like how you did it, like what you got out of that, because like I said, it's about the Clemens experience. It's like, what, when you deal with like the children's charities, when you're doing these things, it's like, what did you get out of this? Not like that, I feel so good about myself. It's that part. It's like, you meet that cancer kid, it's like, what did you come away with? Just like, and tell those stories in the book. Because I think that, to me, that was the part that made it so, unique, so special to listen to your shows, just because of those aspects about the way that you conducted yourself on the radio. That's what I loved.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. And I'll make a note right now, put that in the book. There we go.
Yeah. it's that, that's that I loved you. Yeah. That's what,
yeah.
Craig loved my show.
Craig loved me. And who wouldn't?
I made it. Yes. No.
Now finally.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I think because that's one of the things. Like for me, when I do it, I am horrible at taking compliments. I'm just terrible. I have to. I feel like I'm being just the hubris. I feel like if you say it's like, oh, you did a great job. Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I feel like I'm just egotistical. When
Right. Yeah,
I say it.
it's a hard thing to take a compliment, right? I don't get very many, so I don't have to worry about it. But but when I do, it's always a little awkward, especially when it's something like that. It's like you do so much for the community. I'm like, I'm not the one doing it. I'm just talking about it. They're
Mhm.
doing it. Someone else is doing all the work. So,
And it's that thing is because you're bringing more exposure to it. It's like, yeah, these people, did all the setup. You did, you just showed up and talked about it. It's like you said, but it's that thing. It's like I wouldn't have known about it
right.
had you not been involved in talking about it, and it helped bring the awareness. And that's one of the cool things is just how you were able to take your expertise, what you knew, and you were able to plug that in and actually further the cause for these people, which is great.
I appreciate being in the position to do that. Appreciate
Yeah.
you. So thanks. Real quick question for you.
Yes.
Where's the third beard?
He is in fire school. And so he's learning to be a firefighter. And so he's Monday through Thursday from 6 to 10 p.m. He's in fire school. And so until June, he's the mystery behind the scenes that does the uploading part for the shows. So it's you right now, actually.
Well, I had a beard until yesterday, but I shaved it off. I don't like it.
Yeah,
it's scratchy. It doesn't bug you guys, Chris? Your beard doesn't bug you?
You have to let it get. You have to let it get to this length, and then
dirty with it.
Yeah, some people are that way. It's just, it's just
sometimes you'll find something in it. You're like, I ate that like 3 days ago.
That's we use these things called combs.
I do like. Oh yes, I never combed it. I do like though when you find like a regular hair in there, and when you pull it out, it like you can feel it snaking through the. Do you know what I'm talking about, or am I crazy?
Mm-hmm. Every now and then you'll find that one, and you're like, good God, how long is that sucker? It's just like, it's like old growth hair, and you're like, I'm like, the rest of my beard's only like 2 inches long, and this feels like it's like 4 inches. I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with my beard is I still haven't learned how to spit yet. I've had a beard for over about 5 years now, and I still manage to and just like I'm like, oh, that's gross.
What are you spitting? You chew or something?
That too, but no, when I just spit out, that
was a good call.
Wait. You do like Copenhagen or something?
Skull, yeah.
Oh, you do skull. I did that when I was like 14.
I mean, I'm in between vaping and dipping. So
maybe do the little bandits. Do you remember those?
The pouches.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, then you just take it out and toss it.
Old school. Just get the chaw bar and just break a bite off of it.
Oh my gosh, I've tried that too.
I see those things. I'm like, who does this? I mean, it looks like this road tar. You just like bite off this chunk and then like chewing away on it. I'm like, oh, that's gross.
How cool would that be though, right? You're just standing there, I don't know, bus stop or whatever, talking to people, and then you just take that thing out and I mean, you're kind of a cool guy at that point. I mean, besides the fact that you're gonna get like mouth cancer and die, but otherwise it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for those first 10 years, you're the badass, and then they're like, "Remember that guy? Yeah, he wasted away to nothing, man. That cancer really took him."
Last time I saw him, he didn't have a jaw.
I remember when he was cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, hey, man, get back to the family. Like I said, really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime. And I said, it's just one of those things. If it comes along and said you're bored and you want to come on for this abuse again, hey, we are here for that. So that's
awesome.
Every Wednesday, every Sunday. So all you have to do is drop a line.
I'll come back for sure. Yeah. We'll do something besides talking about me. That's a little awkward.
Okay, we can. We can do it. We'll come up with something like it's like what do you like to talk? I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble on the radio, so I don't want to talk politics. Like geopolitical thing. I don't want to get you. So yeah, if there's something like you really want to just, let me know. And like I said, I'll see if I'll reach out to you and bring you on. Like you said, we can do like a panel thing and talk.
That'd be awesome. I'd love that. I mean,
yeah. And Ron, it's 105.7 KQAK in Bend, Oregon, or the Peak 104.1.
Yeah.
And then
And
there's
we stream
KRCO.
online too.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Let me actually, I can share that on here. So let me show this here for people here real quick too.
if you go to KQAK.com, you can
I
catch my
think
morning show.
Yeah.
Prepare to be disappointed. It's not very good. I always say that the reason why we call it the Dave Clemens experience, because every consultant says don't do that because it doesn't mean anything. I call it the Dave Clemens experience just because I want to make sure that everybody knows it's not a radio show, because radio shows are pretty good. And this is a mess. And I do it every morning. Oh, good. You found it.
Yep.
There's Casey Kasem.
There's her favorite show right there.
Yeah, right. Barbara loves that show.
And see, that's how I called it. I said, it's her Sunday, Sunday mornings. That's not her favorite program.
I love that you knew that.
Yeah, that's proof that I live there. That's right there. And then I listen to the station. I know these things. Yeah, so you just go there and you got, I think the list. Yep, there it is right there.
Nice.
The Dave Clemens experience. So that's everybody go check those out. You can go, like I said, KQAK.com.
Thank you, sir.
That's one. Yep,
Appreciate
you're welcome. So, but yeah, definitely, like I said, check those out. Go, just let them know you saw this here. Appreciate that. Support them. Like I said, when they're doing stuff for charity, and if you happen to be in the Bend area, stop by this weekend at M. Jacobs for their 60% off sale.
11 to 1.
Tell them the Three Beards podcast sent them.
Sounds good. Yeah, I love it.
All right. Well,
Chris,
sir,
nice meeting you, and Craig, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, man. It was a pleasure. Like I said, we'll definitely get you back on. We'll talk some other subjects because I think we'd have a really good time.
Awesome. All right. Thanks.
All right.
Guys.
Well, have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. So everybody, this is brought to you by threebeardspodcast.com is our thing. And we also have the courtesy of Tanya Medea at Outer Realms Bathworks. She's made our signature beard oil. And so this one has a real nice citrus, lemon, bitter orange. And so that's one. It's like really good. Likes the smell. Hey, the wife likes it too. So that, that's the big plus, because that's what's important. And so, yeah, so check them out. We're going to get some links up there as soon as she has the shop open. We're going to get that linked up there for everybody to do that. So, but check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, obviously Facebook, YouTube. Like, subscribe, go there. We also have our merchandise at redbubble.com. Three Beards Podcast is where you go, or just go to threebeardspodcast.com and you can check out the merchandise right there and support the show, or go to patreon.com, become a beardo, and just support us there. We are rebroadcast tonight, 11 o'clock on ERRT radio, courtesy of Ron. We follow into the Outer Realms after that, so just check them out. Just appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you go check out the Dave Clemens experience on KQAK 105.7 mornings. And so it's Eastern time, so for us, so it'd be one of those when he's on, it's about lunchtime for us. So that's up here in the Eastern Seaboard. So everybody, like I said, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. We will see everybody later. Good night.